Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. We've got comedian Joe Bartnick. You can check out his latest tour dates at joebartnick.com. And also, if you're a Thanksgiving Eve fan, you can check him out tomorrow night. That will be Wednesday, November 26th at the Broken Goblet in Bensalem, Pennsylvania with Jim Florentine and Don Jameson. And also, Matt Light is having an ugly Christmas sweater party at the City Winery on December 13th, and Joe will be there. So if you like Matt Light and you listen to this podcast, you know you're going to have a good time with Joe Bartnick. So also, we have a special guest coming down the road in a little bit. In the second segment, we will have the Hall of Famer himself, Dave Molinari, joining to discuss his new book, The Pittsburgh Penguins, an Illustrated Timeline. So boys, the Penguins came home from Sweden and looked like they were still jet-lagged on Friday night versus the Minnesota Wild. They bounced back with a good effort and performance on Saturday, a decent showing versus the Kraken. But 1 out of 4 points is not going to cut it, guys. And Dan Muse made that pretty clear to the press after the game Saturday. Did he not, Josh?
Yeah, he certainly did. And I thought they played well Saturday, but that's why you don't lay an egg the game before, because sometimes you lose games that you should probably have won. And that's exactly what happened to the Penguins this weekend. We can look at this in the big picture, guys. We can say, well, maybe this team's not as good as we thought, and they're coming back to reality. We can say, boy, maybe all of these injuries are finally starting to catch up to them, because every line has been affected by an injury currently. It's a real problem, I think. And we can also say, well, go to Europe and come back. That sounds like an excuse. If you look at the record of teams that play in Europe, when they come back, they always get their asses kicked. That is a real thing. But whatever the case may be, they're not really playing great hockey right now. I think their overall level of play has dropped. And I just think they have too many people out of the lineup right now, Joe. I can only stand watching like Jonah Koppanen and Kevin Hayes and guys like this for so long. They're not helping the cause. There's too many guys in the lineup right now who can't score. And I think there's too many guys in the lineup who are slowing this team down, and it's really becoming a problem.
You're absolutely right, Josh. First of all, welcome back from Europe. Glad you and the woman made it home safely. That's fantastic. And yeah, it's just been, full disclosure, I did not see the game live on Saturday. I was at the Smalls Walls, the DVE event, Randy Bauman's Ramble, and so many fans said, you and Josh's podcast, we love it. It made me feel great. And also even at the Improv on Thursday with Ian Bagg, people loving the podcast. Fans, we love you. I say this all to say this. When I saw my mother the next morning, she goes, did you hear about the game? I'm like, what happened? She goes, I turned it off. I was disgusted. And then Alex, owner of Danny's, our esteemed fan, said he almost broke his television.
Ooh, one of those games.
He said, what do you think? So I watched it after I wrapped my head around the Steeler debacle, and it was about midnight. I gave him about 6 pointers. I go, I'll stop now because it's midnight. I agree with you, Josh. I don't think they played that bad. Friday was way more disturbing as far as just nothing. I mean, nothing happened on Friday in front of a sold-out crowd. I mean, what was the most exciting thing? Like the Shell game with on the big screen? I don't know. I mean, what a horrible outing. We could almost just forget Friday because who cares? I'll jump in this. I think Saturday was an actual hockey game. What I saw, I'm gonna be blunt. I thought all 3 goals, Jesus Christ, in net could have stopped.
Yep.
I agree. He did not have a great game. He also made a couple of other nice saves earlier in the evening, but no question, I didn't love any of the goals he allowed. It was not a real sharp outing from him. Not going to bury the kid in his third NHL start, nor are you. But he definitely did not help the cause Saturday night. The funny thing about that game, when it went to overtime, the Penguins just utterly dominated the 3-on-3 for the first 4 minutes. I don't think Seattle touched the puck. Like, they were so good. They had so many chances to win that game. They really just couldn't finish. And then Seattle got one decent look, and it was good night. So you can take some good out of that game. But what really got my attention was post-game, both nights, what we saw from Dan Muse. Friday night was the first time we've seen him angry. And I asked him if he was disappointed with the effort that he got from his team Friday night. Usually coaches never come out and say it. He didn't say no, but he didn't say yes. He kind of danced around it, but it was pretty obvious if you were there. Yeah, he wasn't happy with the effort. And I think on some level, he was even more angry after Saturday. We asked him basically, well, is it a moral victory? At least your team looked like a functional hockey team tonight and played fairly well. And he shut off the question. And at that moment, it made it clear to me that Dan Muse is thinking, we're going to make the damn playoffs. That's the goal. Maybe nobody else thought this was a playoff team, but I do. And we can't keep hemorrhaging points like this. They're 0-5 in overtime games now, and he was pissed about it, and I liked seeing him like that.
I do too, and Corey said it first, and I agreed with him. 5 out of 6 was a must. These are easy games. We're going to go on the road and face teams that are going to fighting for a number 1 seed, and we can't clean up against these clowns at home after a winter fest in Sweden. Everyone had a nice little jolly happy time. It was not good. And you know what? Just think if it wasn't for the old guys, Sid and Gino, who everyone wanted to trade. Everyone would be, oh, he should go to Canada and try to win a cup, bro. He should go back to Russia. Where the hell would this team be without those two guys? It's literally Sid and Gino doing it. I think Sid's selling popcorn and Gino's selling, FUKU chicken sandwiches on the side.
You're right.
I mean, really. I mean, that's really all it is. My boy, where's my boy at? I don't know. Even Rusty, where's Mantha at? It's really come down to I hate to make any excuses. Rick, I thought we could withstand Raquel. You bring Kindle up. You're still rusty. That was just the first domino, because now, Kevin Hayes is, he's like on the JV. He's like on the stunt team. Hey, when you don't want Brazo to get hurt, you have him running through practice. He's not Brazo. Immediately that line's diminished. And I never thought I'm going to jump off the bridge here. What's his name? The Ted Williams Bridge in Boston here, thinking that Noah Chari was going to end our season, him standing in front of a puck. But somehow now we don't have a third line. We don't have a fourth line, because Dewar's one of the only guys playing good. It's not Dewar's fault.
Well, and so all the injuries have mounted. Like you said, Joe, every line was affected. That top line hasn't been very good. I don't think Rusty's played very well the last few games. He's actually missed the last 2 practices with an illness, so hopefully he's able to go tomorrow night against the Sabres. That's the last thing the Penguins need, is another big gun out of the lineup. But Raquel obviously has had an impact on that top line. The second line hasn't been close to the same without Brazo. You're right. Achari, I didn't expect to be saying it either, but that fourth line works. With Lizotte and Achari and Dewar, it's a good line. They just have chemistry. They're all on the same page. And also, I think when you pulled Kindle up to the top line, that really impacted the third line, because he has been a very good third line center for the Penguins. So you add it all up, and you're not really getting any contributions from young guys right now, because Koivunen's been hurt and hadn't played very well. Brunick's back in Wilkes-Barre now for a couple of weeks. Didn't play very well his last few outings. And McGroarty's been hurt. So you're not getting help from the young guys either. The good news is McGroarty's tearing it up in Wilkes-Barre. He's on a conditioning stint. He's not going to be there for long. I promise we'll see him soon.
Well, it's funny. I saw in your article, because the last thing I sent to Alex was, it's time for Bros and McGroarty. Right now, Bros is up. And on the final line of your article in the Athletic, which everyone needs to subscribe to the Athletic, obviously, was, it's time for McGroarty. And that's 1,000%. And I'll tell you what, Sam Poulin, I take your real estate test, because if you didn't do it this time, this is it. You have more lives than Sylvester on Looney Tunes.
Yeah. They just have too many guys in the lineup right now who just aren't helping. You can have one Craig Adams in the lineup. You can't have 4. Well, and I just feel like that's where they are right now.
Yeah, it was our problem last year. It was like half of the lineup was Craig Adams. I'm glad that, that's one of my questions here is Rucker McGroarty. So it's definitely a conditioning stint. Doesn't have to work his way back up, because what else could the guy do? It's got a goal a game down there.
Yeah, well, he's only played 2 games, so he didn't have a training camp. So I understand they probably have a little plan for him, a certain amount of games, but I can't think it's for more than another week. That they need him up badly.
Now, I'm not trying to knock the kid at all now. Do you think Ben Kindle, if we get 2 guys back, could take his seat in the press box for a night? He looks out of sorts. He's falling down he looks like me at Neville Island.
He had a really bad weekend. I don't think he's been the same since Brant Clark planted his head into the boards against the Kings a couple weeks ago.
And nobody came to knock Brant Clark. And Brant Clark's like 20 years old. Someone should have taught him a lesson.
I agree. Listen, I'm not suggesting the kid is necessarily spooked. Maybe he's banged up. I don't know. But yeah, he's not been the same player since then. It might do him some good. And the plan is for him to take some nights off. I just think they are so banged up and they've suddenly become so reliant on him that they were just trying to ride it out. But you're right. He's not been the same player the last few games. So they're going to have to monitor that a little bit for sure.
Yeah, no, I think he's worn out.
Might be. Yeah, more mentally than anything.
That's what I mean. I just think he needs like a reset. Like he's just flouting around out there.
I mean, it's not just like coming to the NHL, like going to Finland or Sweden, wherever they were, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's been a big month and a half. Like it's a pretty big intro to the NHL.
No, it's new. They've been on the road a ton. He's playing third line center, then he's on Sid's line, then he's on the top power play. Like they're using him in defensive positions. That they're asking an awful lot of an 18-year-old, and he certainly has been, better than good on most nights. But no, you're right. We've absolutely seen his play falling off, and you're right. I think it was the Saturday game. He literally just fell down like 4 times. It was kind of weird. I don't know if he didn't want to get hit or if there was something wrong with his skates or what. But he was very much out of sorts in that game. They were far too reliant on the big boys. And they both scored goals. It would have been a great story if Letang won it in overtime. He hit the post. Would have been the big three all with goals, but they need to get some offense from somewhere else.
Well, that's how I started my soft dump for DVE. I said the Penguins did the near impossible. They lost when Sid and Gino both scored.
It's only happened like 11 times, I think, or
something.
Like
180 and 140 or 80 times. It didn't happen. Like they won.
Yeah, and listen, and they were playing pretty well. And they were up 2-1. I don't want to put the entire game on Miroshov, but the goal I really didn't like was the second goal, the game tying goal.
Yeah.
He kind of jumped at the puck instead of just holding his ground. He'll be okay. You watch him play, you see the talent. You know it's there. So not his best game, but I'm not gonna crush the kid. I am curious to see when Tristan Jarry will be back. He looks like he's pretty close to returning. I assume Miroshov will at that point head back to Wilkes-Barre, which is fine. They don't really have any other option. Let's see how Shilovs looks in his next start too, because as good as he's been, boy, he wasn't very good against the Wild the other night either.
Yeah, I mean, the defense was terrible in front of him, but that doesn't excuse 4 goals on 10 shots.
Well, like if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas every day. But if, okay, they come back from Sweden, they're down 1-0. That double minor killed them from Lazat. Yes. It was like you knew the game was over right then, and they did the worst possible thing. They killed 3.5 minutes of it,
and they made it look
like
easy.
The worst. That's like the worst thing you can do. Either give one up early, or it's like that's the worst possible scenario in those situations.
Yeah, it's like you just about to escape from danger, and it brings it back to reality. And I think Miroshov too. Josh, you get to see him in practice all the time, but he's so athletic. And I felt like that save, he was trying to kind of rely on his athleticism. So maybe a little bit more time in the AHL, a little more time with Andy Chiodo, and also he's a smart kid. Like, can we talk about for a second how gracious this kid is in all of his interviews? Like, he's the most genuine kid ever. Like, I love the quotes that you guys pull from him at the end. He's like thanking fans. And
his first home game, he said, "I know the Steelers played today and I appreciate everybody coming out anyway." Then after the Minnesota game, he said, "I know tonight was bad, but some of you still stayed till the end of the game. I just wanted to say I really appreciate that." He's like, no, he's going to be a wildly popular guy in this town because he's got the personality and he's got the talent. One thing though, as good as he has been, and didn't have a great game the other night, he still is so inexperienced. That's the one thing I would remind people. He's only played a handful of AHL games. So some more work in the AHL this season, if that's what it comes down to, is not the end of the world for him or a bad thing.
Saying his 3 goals, that Patrick Waugh could stop blindfolded is true, but it also doesn't. It also is like we should be able to score more than 3 goals against the Seattle effing Kraken.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't exactly the 70. It wasn't exactly the 77 Canadians.
No. And Joe, that's something that we saw so often the last couple of years. The inability to finish, and it's starting to rear its ugly head a little bit now. certainly a concern. But like I said, Sid and Gino are doing their job. They really are. But, they need to get some kind of offense from the bottom six. And I don't know where it's going to come from. Tristan Brose is going to make his NHL debut tomorrow night. Maybe he can be the answer. I don't know, but they need somebody else to give some scoring punch.
Well, can Novak just shoot? I mean, is he trying to win the analytics battle of holding on to the puck longer than anybody else? I mean,
Corsi All-Star.
He looks good. He's just not shooting the puck. Like, he's not playing that bad. I mean, but now who comes out? Does Competent disappear, or who comes out?
That would be my guess. If I were coaching the team, that's what I would do. He just hasn't really impressed me at all. But yeah, I mean, they certainly have some options. Tomasino, of course, is officially back in Wilkes-Barre now. And you mentioned Novak. I actually feel like the level of his play has improved lately. But you said it. He must have passed up this weekend 4 or 5 like golden chances to score. I don't know what the thinking is, what the thought process is with him, but boy, he needs to start shooting the puck. I mean, that was painful to watch.
And another sad thing. I think the poor blood clot kid. I think we're missing him too.
Because we're calling him now. Blood clot?
I get my Open-Ins, my Copen-Ins, my Sopen, my all those guys.
Philip Hollander.
Yeah, Hollander. Well, geez, I'm really off. Maybe I should go to Sweden. Get him a blood transfusion.
They do miss him because he's a good bottom six guy.
Yes.
No, I agree. And even Dewar, who I really like, I like him a hell of a lot more on the fourth line than I do the first line. So with all the injuries they have, yes, they need to start creating offense elsewhere. The power play has been great. It's not going to keep clicking at 35% like it was. That is not realistic. The lack of 5-on-5 offense is probably, when I look at the roster, the single biggest problem I see right now. But maybe with some good health, things will turn around. Raquel skated today, by the way.
I was going to ask. That was my final forward question.
Yeah,
would you, if you could rank in order of possible appearance, Raquel, Brazo, and Noel?
It's tough to say. We're not going to see any of them tomorrow, but I don't think any of them are that far away. Raquel still had the cast on his hand Saturday night when I saw him in the press box, but he was skating today. So, and all along they certainly indicated he'd be back before Christmas at some point. So the fact that he's already skating a month before Christmas, that's a really good sign.
He should pull an Iron Mike Sharp and just wear the cast on the ice. He's got to be better. He's better than Competent, even with one arm.
No, that's true. Although, it's a bad injury for him though, because his greatest strength is his ability to shoot the puck. So you hope. At least it's his left hand and not his right hand, which is probably a good thing. But you hope he's close to 100% when he returns. I don't think there's any questioning how important Rickard Raquel is to this team.
Yeah. No, I mean, anybody that played hockey knows when something's wrong with your wrist. It's not easy. Which again, not to always go back to Mario, but it always comes back to Mario. His performance coming back after the Adam Graves crap. Still just one of the best. We talked about the forwards, but Letang, good Lord, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, I mean, Friday night, it was like, okay, pack it up, dude. Like, it's over. And then Saturday, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, hey, there he is. It's like, what can Letang do to, like, just get some consistency?
I thought he played his best game of the year on Saturday, so that's encouraging. But the handful of games before then, especially Friday night, I mean, it looks like he's playing a different sport. He's been painful to watch, and I think that's just what we're going to see with him. Some nights he's going to look like the Letang of old, and other nights he's going to be a major problem. And I think he's been a problem more times than not this season, Joe. And that's he won't change the way he plays. If he would remember a couple of years ago, Carlson's first year, the first half of the season, Letang just played a more conservative, defensive minded. He was really good at it, but he just can't do it. It's just not in his DNA, I don't think, and it's a real issue.
Well, being you brought up EK65, other than about 2 games, I think he's been marvelous this year.
Yeah.
He's and him and Wotherspoon make a great number one tandem. I'm going to throw out there, I think you got to break up Shea and Letang. I think Shea is literally shell-shocked by some of Letang's play. And I don't know who you move up then. Maybe, I guess Bernicki's not on the table, but maybe a St. Ivany at some point. But I think you put this, as crazy as this sounds, I think Graves has played good enough to play with Letang on a third pairing. I think Graves has played pretty steady.
It's the best we've seen him play in Pittsburgh. Hasn't been great. Hasn't been bad.
Hasn't been bad at all. Has not been bad.
He has been perfectly okay. And is he worth the money? No. But after what we've seen the last 2 years, will you live with him being an okay third pairing defenseman? Absolutely you would. And that's what he's been for the past couple of weeks. So I'm encouraged by what we've seen from him. Really, that whole left side, which is supposed to be so terrible. Like Shea, for the most part, has been very good. And I agree with you. I think playing with Letang is starting to have an impact on him. Wotherspoon's been one of the stories of the season. That guy's been outstanding. And if Graves can play like this, all of a sudden, the left side's not so bad.
Because see, I think Shea with Dumba or Clifton would settle things more down. I think there wouldn't be as many problems. I just don't think there'd be as many problems.
I would like to see that because I think Dumba and Clifton have both been fine. I probably like Dumba better, but I'm okay with both of them. I love that they play with a little bit of an edge. And Shea's a pretty big guy. Like that could maybe be something of a shutdown pairing. You're not going to have a shutdown pairing as long as Crystal Tank's on the ice.
Well, no, exactly. And basically, Shea almost always makes the right play.
Mm-hmm.
So you would really cut down the BS that's coming at these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Letang...
Dumba's a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, Dumba doesn't make Letang mistakes constantly. And Clifton might get Clifton will knock people around, but even he doesn't make the Letang mistakes.
Well, not many among us do. Let's be honest. And I mean, Chris probably going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. I hate to give the guy a hard time, but he's hard to watch on some nights right now. It's not just 1 or 2 games. It's like most of the time. He has been more responsible for goals against than any player on the team by far this season. And I would say the same thing last season as well. It continues to be a legitimate problem.
Ange always goes, "You just don't like him." Come always like, "Look at Letang, what's he doing?" She's like, "You just don't like him." It's like, I like him when he does well.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Now I'm not going to go against Ange. I mean, I trust Ange's knowledge of her son. But...
It's funny she knows her stuff.
Yeah,
she really does.
But
it's about time for the Ange podcast.
Yeah, Letang's refusal to alter. He still tries the high risk stuff constantly. He won't shoot the puck. He's always looking for the perfect pass. I mean, he takes so many chances in his own zone when he can just dump the puck to the neutral zone. It's got to be maddening for the new coaching staff. I know it was for Mike Sullivan in the end, and I'm sure it is for these guys too.
One thing on the defensive end I wanted to talk about was I think it was Mackey reported it, that Ryan Graves said kind of something that echoed what Erik Karlsson said, of playing with coaches that allow you to play the game that works for you, something like that. I'm butchering the paraphrasing, but what do you make of that? Because I think there's something to that. I mean, we're hearing this multiple times, and for everybody that says Mike Tomlin will get a job somewhere, I'm like, well, look at Mike Sullivan right now. Like, it's not going swimmingly, and nothing against Sullivan. He did great for us, won 2 cups. I'm very happy. He'll be welcome back anytime he wants to come back. But that's interesting to hear that from 2 people, isn't it, Josh?
No, I mean, it gets your attention. I knew for a fact Karlsson wasn't a huge Sullivan fan. He didn't really hide it. And Graves' comments, how could that not get your attention? Now, I can play devil's advocate and say maybe those 2 could have played better anyway, and maybe it's not very, very becoming to just be blaming the former coach for all of your troubles.
Good point.
But clearly Sullivan's system rubs some people the wrong way, and I think his lack of flexibility in the end. It wasn't just those 2 guys. I mean, I've talked with guys who played in Pittsburgh years ago who respected Sullivan, but didn't feel like he really changed over the years with the game, and that he wasn't real flexible to call an audible here and there, if I may use a football term. And yeah,
Speaking of which, for Section 3, this podcast, someone who can't make a change.
That's right. And it's, I mean, and I will say it's the defensemen more than the forwards who I've talked with over the years who don't always have the most flattering things to say about Sully. I will say this: everybody loves this guy, Dan Muse. I mean, I have yet to hear a bad word, and he's brought out the best in a lot of guys. So you can see why they're comfortable with him right now.
Yeah, I love Dan Muse. I'm about to go to Firebirds and Cranberry and just give them my credit card and say, pick up the next tab he comes in. Thank you for
You'll probably see him
you've
there.
done. I think about that every time ever since you wrote that article, every time I drive by there, I'm like, I wonder if Muse is in there.
Firebirds is killer.
Oh, it's great.
It's a good place. Yeah,
I know. I'll tell you what, though, it's not cheap. Bill the office. Thanks, Bill, for paying for that.
That's right. I dine with Bill at Firebirds on occasion. He's the kind of guy who picks up the check. Thank God. I know.
Oh my God, I love that place. The Sunday
Really
brunch menu. We got to get. Where's Ryan? We got to get those guys to sponsor us.
Yeah, Firebirds, good stuff. So at the risk of sounding a little too, I don't know, alarming, is this a big next game? Like as much of a must win as you could possibly have in November? Because I mean, it's the Sabres. Like, you got to beat the Sabres on Thanksgiving Eve at home. And if we don't, what happened? Like, we're on the outside looking in the playoffs.
Well, that's because the Eastern Conference is literally, if the Penguins go on a 5-game losing streak, they'll be in last place in the conference. If they go on a 5-game winning streak, they'll be the 1 seed. That's just the way the East is right now. It's an important game because I feel like they need to stop the bleeding. And we all know how nasty the schedule's about to turn.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo's not particularly good. They have given the Penguins fits the last few years for whatever reason. Well, a lot of people have given the Penguins fits, but you're at home, probably going to be a sellout because it's the traditional Thanksgiving Eve game. I really think it's an opportunity to put some more asses back in the seats for the Penguins. It's an opportunity to get 2 points in the standings. They usually play pretty well on this gate. I know the big boys really enjoy the Thanksgiving Eve crowd. They get up for this game. I'm not going to say it's like the season's over if they lose. I don't think it's that important, but I do think they need to stop the bleeding, Joe.
Absolutely have to stop the bleeding. And Buffalo was one of these teams that if you want to be a playoff team, you beat at home.
Right.
Buffalo is playing better. They're still Buffalo. You got to win that game because then you got Columbus. Now, Columbus, they're right on our list of rivals. I don't even think when Richard Dawson goes, survey says, they're not even in the top 5 or 6. But they're the Ravens. I mean, they think we're the Ravens. So we're their Flyers. So,
That's right.
And then Toronto. So they'll be desperate and they'll have 9,000 fans there from everyone on SeatGeek on Saturday. Then Philly. That'll be a war. Then Tampa, who's now the hottest team in hockey, and then Dallas. I never think I could be wrong. We usually don't do good in Dallas.
No.
Won last year, but that was the first time in a while.
Right. I'm like, it seemed like we won, but it never. So those are like 6 games in a row that you better beat the Swords on Thanksgiving Eve.
And the rest of December doesn't get easy. You got McJesus coming to town. You got the Red Hot Ducks coming to town.
The Duckies are going to be the Duckies will be flying.
The Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto swing, which is typically not the easiest one for the Penguins. So, no, the schedule's nasty. They need to start putting some points together. And Dan Muse said as much. He said, yeah, after the Seattle game, he said, yeah, we played pretty well. But he said, I don't really care anymore. We got 1 out of 4 points this weekend. That's not good enough. And he's absolutely right. I appreciated the directness from what he said that night.
Yeah, you can't get 1 point out of the Kraken in the Wild at home, especially in front of we had 3 out of 4 sellouts recently, and the other one top 17 grand. So it's not like there was no energy in the building.
No, they were good crowds too. They were.
I haven't been to a game yet this year, sadly, but the energy is palpable on TV lately. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right here, and plus it's like a wonky, like it's in Ottawa, in Montreal, back home against Montreal, and then back to Toronto. Like it's gonna get rough here.
It is.
Montreal is a very good hockey team.
Oh yeah,
I hope Ricard Raquel and a couple of guys are back for that.
I think Montreal's a sleeper in the East. I think that team's really good, and I don't think the East is very good. I'd be aware of that team.
Yeah. Well, how about, I mean, teams that, have you guys watched, we're not getting into a whole NHL segment, but I watched a little bit of the Mammoth last night. Good Lord.
That team, Logan Cooley.
The Grand Salami.
4 goals for Logan.
How about
I
he
mean,
beat the whole team after being on the ice for like 2 minutes?
I know. Boy, is he good.
Young
I
legs.
really, our friend, the Super Genius, tweeted this today, and I couldn't agree more. I really hope he's on the American Olympic team. He should be. He's a really,
absolutely.
really good player.
I even take him over Rust right now.
Yeah, I would too. And I like that Utah team a lot. That's a good team.
If you have ESPN Plus, that's one of the go-tos.
Oh, yeah.
Besides Logan Coley, they're just fun. They got
Plus,
like
you get
9
Ian
guys
Cole
that
and-
can score.
Get to see Ian Cole and Ole Mata and John Marino and all the old Penguins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, God, I was ready to I was bored to tears by Monday Night Football, and I saw on the ESPN app, I was like, the Mammoth are on. Let me check this out. And good Lord, I think I saw 4 goals in like 5 minutes, felt like, anyways. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to win. Before we go into the next segment, any news on the plans? Well, actually, 2 things I want to ask about. News on Harrison Brunick, and then also, anything going on with the Hoffman family and everything like that. So is the Brunick plan, let's start with that. He's on a conditioning stint now. Have you heard anything that confirms that he is definitely doing that and then World Juniors and then back?
Well, yeah. No, we know he's in Wilkes-Barre. We'll start there. My sense is that they are going to let him play in the World Juniors, and I'd be okay with that. I would not be okay with Kindle going to play there, and I don't think he will. But because they don't really know what to do with Brunick right now, I don't really think they want to send him back to junior. That would be a nice way to kind of buy him some time to get him work against really, really good competition. So I think that's probably what we are going to see with Harrison. He needs to play, Joe. Like you can't just have him sitting around for a month.
Well, I have 2 questions relating to what you answered. One is, does Kindle want to play on that team?
Does Kindle want to play in the Worlds?
Yeah, because then it's not a conflict of interest, but it's kind of like, hey, I want to play. Well, it's like, well, you're playing for us. Or
I don't know. My guess is he's perfectly happy being in the National Hockey League right now, just from talking to him. I don't think he has some massive desire to go play in World Juniors.
Then my second question is Brunick just look mediocre in practice, where he can't beat out a rotation of 2 guys that Muse doesn't seem to like anyway?
He looks okay in practice from what I've seen. I just think they're basing it on his last 3 or 4 outings, which were not good. I just think that scared them.
Well, that's a fact.
I think they want to see how he looks in Wilkes-Barre. Give him a handful of games down there. Maybe he kind of gets his footing a little bit. Doesn't mean we won't see him in the lineup again at some point this year. My guess is we will. But they're just kind of being creative. I think they can get him, 5 games down there or whatever, and then you can play him 6 or 7 games in the World Juniors in December and into January. So at least he gets his footing, gets some game action. Then at that point, they're going to have to make a decision eventually. But I could see him back in the lineup. It's not like the talent isn't there. I think we all know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I was hoping to hear. But
and the ownership, I forgot.
Yeah. The Hoffman Group. I mean, is there anything going on?
Yeah. Well, no, there's not, and that's the point. I can tell you right now, the conversations between the Hoffman family and FSG are done, and they did not come to an agreement. Everything I have heard is that the Hoffman family, sounds kind of silly saying this about billionaires, but they just didn't have enough money. Like they didn't have, as business people like to say, the liquidation just wasn't there. They have a ton of investments, but they don't have a lot of liquid there. And because of that, Fenway wants 1.7, 1.8 billion if they're going to do it. And I just don't think the money was there. And from what I've heard, the talks are done. That doesn't mean they can't pick up at some point, but they're done. And I did some snooping around yesterday to see if the Hoffman family had given old number 66 a call. I mean, if they want some kind of business partner, that would sure as hell seem to make sense to me. But they did not give him a call. And I don't know what his answer would have been, if he would have considered it or not. If I were the Hoffman family, I'd be like, all right, maybe that'd be an okay business partner in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They didn't call Mario. So the deal is off. And from what I've heard, Fenway will sell for the right price, but I don't think they are urgently looking to sell. Like if it comes up at the right price, they will, but it's off right now.
Yeah. I know a guy that has money sitting around.
Yeah.
His name's Ron Burkle.
Sure is.
Yeah. Is there any chance he comes back in?
Raise the price of milk. Come on back.
Any whispers or rumors on that front? Or
No, I don't. I know that Mario and Burkle and David Morehouse have talked. I think they've had casual conversations about it. Nothing serious has taken place in terms of talks. And one of the issues, like, there's some bad blood between Fenway and Mario and Burkle and Morehouse. I don't know that would be the group Fenway'd want to sell to, given the history there in the last couple of years. So that's something to keep in mind. But it certainly felt like a couple of months ago this was going to happen with the Hoffman family. But this kind of stuff happens in billion-dollar deals. I remember in the old days, Boots Del Baggio was going to buy the Penguins, and a couple of other, Jim Balsillie was going to buy the Penguins.
Yep.
When you're dealing with this kind of money, like, stuff happens sometimes, and from everything I've been told in the last couple of days, it's not even stalled. The talks are just done, and they could always pick up and resume, but for the time being, the Penguins aren't being sold.
I think what we should do is, if Mr. Ron Burkle wants to kind of get in around and, maybe get them FSG to sell to somebody, he could invest in the Two for Talking podcast, and then we'll make an offer. Have Joe Bartnick lead. Have Joe leading the negotiations at the table.
It'll be the Neophis group.
There'll be the Neophis group. Good point.
Bill's going to be up in the box calling the shots.
Would that be something? Would that be something? So yeah, I mean, a lot of people have negative things to say about FSG. I'd love to see them around, but the one thing I keep thinking about is because the Penguins aren't making money right now, and so coming from the era of seeing them go bankrupt, and Joe, you've seen them go bankrupt multiple times. There's something to be said for the fact that you have an owner that's willing to pay and pick up the check.
I agree with you 1,000%, Corey. I mean, here's the biggest problem with Fenway Sports is they messed with the Golden God. They messed with everyone's favorite human being. If they left on a cordial relationship and Mario was around the team 10 times a year, we'd say this is fantastic. It's not their fault. I think Dubas has done a good job. They've done nothing wrong other than the fact that they didn't treat Mario right. And that pisses all of us off. And that's the bottom line.
That's never going to go over in Pittsburgh. I agree. They're stable. They're completely stable owners. They have a lot of money. They spend a lot of money on the Penguins, so that's all great. But like you said, they don't get along all that well with 66, and in Pittsburgh, that will always be an issue.
Yep. Yeah. Well, one thing that will never be an issue is your insurance. If Mr. Bill Neophis is your agent, is that true, Josh?
You couldn't be more right, Corey. Bill Neophis, our great friend, our great sponsor. I just saw him at the Kraken game on Saturday night, as a matter of fact. He was encouraged by the performance, and luckily he wasn't there for the Minnesota game. But yeah, we tell you all about Bill every week, and we mean it from the bottom of our hearts. He's the best insurance man in Pittsburgh. Bill represents everybody. Like, he represents all the small common man. And then, like, you'll be watching a Steelers game with Bill and somebody gets a sack. You'll be like, oh, I represent him, just very nonchalantly. That's because you're big time, Bill, because everybody in town trusts this guy. No matter your insurance needs, Bill's going to take care of you. His incredible staff is going to take care of you. They're all big Pens fans, too. So give a call when you have to talk about insurance, but talk about hockey, too, because Bill likes that. So give them a call. We always give you the number. It's 412-364-3388. And it's neophisinsurance.com. Bill's the best. He will take care of you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Bill.
Thank you, Bill. He is the best. Well, speaking of the best, next up we'd like to welcome in a special guest. In 2009, he received the Elmer Ferguson Memorial Award for his 27 years of covering the Pittsburgh Penguins on the beat, which means he is a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He is a longtime Penguins beat writer, and he currently writes on his Substack of Pucks and Penguins, and he is the author of his new book, The Pittsburgh Penguins: An Illustrated Timeline. Please welcome the great Dave Molinari.
Yay, Dave.
How about the average, Dave Molinari? On a good
Yeah, the great. I've been reading you my whole life, so this is an honor to have you on, and we really appreciate you coming, and you work with Josh a lot, so you must know each other pretty well.
We've had a few common employers over the years.
I just want to say, then I'll let Josh take over. It's an absolute honor to be talking to you, Dave. My mother and father used to send me your season-ending clippings from the press. Like, here you go. I always want to hear your grades and what you thought about next year. So it's a true honor. I'll let Josh take it away.
Yeah, it certainly is,
Well,
Dave.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, guys. I wish I could tell you this is just my second year on the beat, and I'm really looking forward to the many years ahead. But
And by the way, in case you haven't figured it out, Dave's unbelievably funny and literally the funniest man I've ever known. He says inappropriate things in the press box every day. And I laugh because I too am an inappropriate person. We won't repeat those things as we don't need Dave to get fired before the holidays. Well, you're your own boss, so who's going to fire you?
I'd at least turn me into HR.
Yeah.
I bet you would. Well, Dave, thank you for doing this. We want you to talk about the book, so let's get right into it. I'm curious what made you want to write the book, and I'm guessing part of it is we've discussed this over the years. There are a bunch of franchises out there, but I don't know that too many professional sports franchises have ever been more interesting than the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'm guessing because of that, you had some pretty nice material for the book.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up, I had, and actually, the book was not my idea. I was approached by the publisher, a company called Reedy Press in St. Louis, that asked if I was interested in doing the book. For better or for worse, I've been around since the start of the franchise, although I've only covered it for 43 years now. So I've witnessed pretty much everything that made it into the book. And as you noted, I mean, they've been really bad at times, they've been really good at times, but they've never been boring. There's always been something going on and or off the ice with them. So I ended up the book includes 150 some vignettes, high or low moments from the franchise history, and I actually had to whittle down, cut about 10 or 15 candidates for inclusion, just because it has been such a colorful history.
That it has. And listen, we're going to get into, the early 90s Penguins and all the big names that you've covered. But before this goes any longer, I don't want to forget. I'd love for you to explain what it was like to cover the 83-84 Penguins, your first year on the beat, one of the worst teams in hockey history. And you have told me for years that was the most fun you ever had covering a hockey team because, well, there were some interesting characters on that team, shall we say.
Well, yeah, I mean, there certainly were. It helped that it was my first year on the beat, so everything about it was new. That added a dimension of enjoyment to it. But I mean, the team was so comically bad that, and with my approach to writing, they just dovetailed perfectly. Uh, it was an easy team to make fun of. Um, and as Josh knows, and you guys might be aware of it or you might not, that season produced my favorite stat of all time. The Penguins won 16 games that year. Mike Bullard scored 51, wasn't it, Josh?
Yes.
Goals.
Oh my God.
And none of them was a game winner. And I've loved that stat for many decades now. I don't know that we'll ever see anything quite like that again, even though they did admittedly only win 16 games that year.
Yeah. And, I mean, Eddie has long since said that they just didn't have good players that year. But early on in that year, did you get the whispers of, hey, there's this guy, Mario Lemieux, everybody's talking about?
Well, actually, in training camp that year in Johnstown at the War Memorial,
Wow.
the Penguins scouting staff at that time consisted of three guys: a guy named Billy Taylor, who handled Ontario, one named Claire Rothermall, who covered Western Canada, and a guy who covered Quebec named Albert Mandanici. And Albert was trying to convince everybody at training camp that year that a guy he had just discovered named Mario Lemieux was going to be a really, really good player, and that if the Penguins could get him, it would probably be in their best interest. Of course, everybody in the hockey world had been well aware of Mario Lemieux for several years by that time, but Albert took credit for discovering him.
Did you see Mario play that year in juniors, Dave?
In fact, I did.
Thought so.
I went to see him. He was playing for Laval at the time. He went and played a game at Verdun Auditorium. I believe Pat LaFontaine was on that team. So was a goaltender by the name of Troy Crosby, who ended up being a
No way.
12th round draft choice of Montreal and never went on to do much in pro hockey, but had a son who's had some modest achievements over the years.
Hey, he breeded pretty well. Oh.
Better than he tended goal. That was the first goal I saw Lemieux score in person was on Troy Crosby.
Wow.
Man, that's what we're talking about.
He did get
a
one
nugget.
past the goaltender at one time that made us a good team.
That's true. That's true.
Well, Dave, when we talk about Mario, I mean, when I think about you, Dave, listen, you've covered the Penguins forever, as we like to. I always like to poke fun with Dave. Like, yeah, I was 12 years old when the Penguins won the second cup, and that makes Dave feel really old, which is good fun for me. But Dave, when I think of you, I immediately think of the early 90s Penguins. I think for a lot of fans, you're kind of synonymous with those teams. And we all know how great they were and how entertaining they were. But I think just on a professional level, you probably never had more fun in your life than you had covering those teams, just in terms of the personalities and the characters that you were able to deal with.
Oh, there were some incredibly large personalities on that team. Guys like Kevin Stevens and Ulf Samuelsson. They just dominated a locker room. In fact, their presence was so overwhelming that I think it cost Marcus Naslund a few productive seasons in the NHL because he was kind of an introverted guy, kind of a shrinking violet type. And I think he was just overwhelmed by all of the big, loud voices in that locker room. And, it wasn't until he got to Vancouver that he really blossomed and turned into the great player that everybody thought he had the capability of being.
Well, Dave, while we're talking about the early 90s, I'm just going through my Rolodex of stories that Dave's told me that need to be shared.
That's what I want to hear.
Yes, I'm sitting back letting the two old pros.
Big Artie Stevens is, in fact, a friend of the show, and he came on the show a few months back. So we're big Artie fans here, as I know you are as well. Could you regale the viewers on the very legendary night when he made his famous prediction in the Boston Garden after the Penguins had fallen down 2-0 in the 91 conference finals? I know you remember that night quite well.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, that merited an entry in the book.
Yes.
The Penguins, who to that point, they had just won their first division championship in franchise history, I don't know, a month or so earlier, 6 weeks earlier, maybe.
Uh-huh.
They're down 2-0 to Boston in a series they're favored to lose. They're in the dressing room at Boston Garden where
a lovely place, right?
it was cramped. There was no air conditioning. Legend had it that the Bruins always turned on the heat in warm weather months just to make things as unpleasant as possible for the visiting team. And, the Penguins were generally discouraged, but Kevin Stevens was standing in the middle of the room, his white shirt soaked through with perspiration, vowing, and I mean vowing, to wave after wave of reporters who came to him that the Penguins were going to win that series. He never flinched. He never hesitated. He had absolutely nothing in history to back him up. There was, at that point, no reason to think that the Bruins weren't going to sweep the series. As it turned out, he nailed it. The Penguins won the next 4 games and got them into the Stanley Cup final for the first time. It was really a gutsy, going out on a limb prediction by Stevens, and he backed it up with his play. I consider him the best power forward of his generation, and there were some pretty good ones then.
Absolutely. I I devour Penguin stuff. I can't wait to read your book, Dave. Is there any is it all just great moments, or what's a good minutia story? What is there any minutia that, like for me, like one of my favorite moments ever is when Tamer knocked out Bob Probert. Any of those stories in there, just like something that you just remember, like?
No, not really. I mean, there were a few things that certainly didn't get, that got a lot of attention at the time. The fight you mentioned, something that I included actually was about Kevin Stevens. It turned out to be a trade of great magnitude for the Penguins, but there was nothing at the time. Stevens at the time was a freshman at Boston College, and the Penguins sent Anders Håkansson to Los Angeles for the rights to Stevens, who I believe had been a 6th-round draft pick a few months earlier. But no, there weren't, outside of spectacular offensive performances, like Lemieux's 8-point game in the playoffs against the Flyers, that sort of thing. I don't know that there is much in the book about particular fights, although there's something about the aftermath of fights. I don't know if any of you guys were old enough to be alive then, but right after the Penguins acquired Battleship Kelly and Steve Durbano from the Blues, their first or second game here, they were just dominant. And there is a famous picture, probably one of the most famous photos in Penguin history, of those two when they were announced as stars of the game with their arms raised. And, it wasn't because either of them had a 4-goal night or anything like that, but they added some badly needed toughness to those Penguin teams in the mid-'70s, and that was quite a memorable night.
Dave, when you were growing up back in the Stone Ages, I would guess Pittsburgh was more of a even baseball town maybe then, or becoming a football town as well. It was not a hockey town at all, but I've had the sense that even young Dave Molinari really had a thing for hockey. Where did that love come from?
I have no idea because, I mean, you are correct. It was, when I was a kid, it was a Steelers town, even though the Steelers at that point had won absolutely nothing. They actually went 16 years longer than the Penguins did without winning anything. The Pirates were pretty good for most of the 60s and into the 70s. The Penguins were largely an afterthought, at least until the mid-'70s. They began to routinely sell out the Civic Arena. The capacity then was 13,404. And I believe in the 74-75 season, they sold out over 20 games. It was a very entertaining team then. Had the Sillaps, Jean Pronovost, Lowell McDonald, Century Line, Battleship Kelly and Steve Durbano. Pierre LaRouche came along then. So, it was a fun team to watch. But before that, the Penguins really had just been kind of an afterthought on the Pittsburgh sporting spectrum, somewhere between the Pittsburgh Pipers and, the Pirates.
Yeah, I wonder with that, it's soccer, so it's a little different, but with the Riverhounds winning, and I kind of thought to myself, like, I wonder if that's what the Penguins were like in the early 70s, like nobody really paid attention and, kind of like a fringe thing. Like my dad said, like, oh yeah, me and my buddies would go, but like, it was like his tickets were $1, and like they could just get a group of them in a car and go down. So it's interesting. Speaking of the 90s, the early 90s, was it around that time? I mean, you said looks like they were going to get swept. When did you think, covering the team in 1991, that, oh my God, they might actually have a chance to win the Stanley Cup? What was the moment that it flipped?
Well, probably it didn't really happen until they got ahead of the North Stars 3-2 in the series. I mean, if you grew up watching this team, you expected the worst. The just best case scenarios just didn't happen with this team. And I probably wasn't totally convinced that they were going to win the Cup until the second intermission of Game 6 in Minnesota. They're up 7-0, And the other beat writer at that time, I was at the Pittsburgh Press, Tom McMillan, who went on to become a Penguin executive, was covering for the Post-Gazette at the time. And I walked toward him in the press box, and we made eye contact, and we had both been following since the birth of the franchise, and neither of us could believe what we were about to witness. I mean, at that point, even we were convinced that a 7-0 lead was probably going to hold up for another 20 minutes.
One of my favorite parts of that game, Dave, if you go back and watch in the third period, I think it was 7-0 after Jimmy Pack scored, of all people. And Staggy was clearly ready to pop the champagne. And on the air, Mike Lang says, I don't know, Staggy, long way to go on this one. Because for that same reason, until it actually happened, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, until then, the franchise's most glorious moments had come in defeat. When they almost beat the Blues in 5 games in 1981, and when they almost upset the 2-time champion Islanders the next year. And, well, it wasn't particularly glorious in 1975 when they blew a 3-0 lead to the Islanders, but all of their most memorable moments before the 90-91 season had come with an unhappy ending.
Dave, you go back further than me, and Mario's obvious, but I've said on many occasions, I thought the real turning point was when we got Paul Coffey. What do you?
I think that was when people outside of the organization started to believe that the Penguins were really serious about winning. If they had really been paying attention in 83, 84, when I don't think many people were, it was clear that Eddie Johnston was doing everything in his power to finish with the worst record in the league, so that he could get Mario Lemieux. There was no draft lottery then, so if you finished last, you got the first pick. But when they acquired Coffey, I think that raised a lot of eyebrows, not only in Western Pennsylvania but around the league. That you didn't know whether Pittsburgh was going to become a contender, but that they finally were serious about trying to become one, and it worked.
Speaking of the early 90s Penguins, this was actually, I think, in 2000. Dave, you were already famous. You got even more famous when you selected Chris Pronger to win the MVP, and Jaromir Jagr ended up losing by only 1 vote. There was one person in the organization who was not mad at you, Dave. Would you like to tell everyone who it was?
Oh, gee, I don't remember that incident at all, Josh. Actually, the one guy in the organization who did not get upset about that was Jaromir Jagr. Even Mario Lemieux at that time made it known that he disagreed with my choice, which, for the record, if those votes were being cast today, I would go the same way, because the heart is not supposed to go to the best player in the league. It's supposed to go to the guy adjudged to be most valuable to his team. St. Louis had finished with, I believe, the second best record in the league that year, and Chris Pronger was the main reason that they were able to do that. He had an extraordinary season. I don't think that anybody would try to tell you that he was a better player than Jagr, but he was more important to the Blues that season than Jagr was to the Penguins, in my opinion. Let's bear in mind, while that was the outcome was decided by 1 vote, I was not the only one to vote for Chris Pronger. There were a lot of other people around the league. I can't tell you who, because I don't know, because the voting was not made public then. My vote only was made public because right after I had cast my ballot, I was talking to my sports editor at the time, telling him what a difficult decision it had been to pick between Jagr and Pronger, and thought that was the end of that. A few weeks later, when the voting was announced, he called me and said, "You have to write something explaining why you made the choice you made. Again, the voting wasn't made public at that time, but he was my editor, so I did what he requested and explained my rationale, and still have people expressing hate about it to this day.
Well, I'm sorry for bringing it up. I'm going to get you some death threats now. But what was Yager like to cover, Dave? Because he always, I've dealt with him a couple of times, in his later years. He always comes across as kind of a mysterious figure on some level.
Yeah, but he was a lot of fun. I'm always in awe of the European guys who can become conversant in a second language. And I think it's particularly difficult for guys from Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic or Czechia, whatever name it's going by at the time. But Yager had a really good sense of humor, very intelligent, was capable of conversing on a lot of things outside of hockey, had some very strong political beliefs, was a big Ronald Reagan fan.
Didn't he have a picture of him in his wallet?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, he was a lot of fun to cover. And he, on those teams in the late 90s, in the early 90s when he first got there, he was just kind of one of the background pieces. But by the time the Stanley Cup, those first two Stanley Cups were fading in the distance, he was becoming more of a dominant personality on the ice and in the locker room. And he was a lot of fun to talk to and fun to deal with.
I was just going to ask, on the early 90s, you were around Bob Johnson a lot, and I'd love to hear. I love hearing stories about Bob Johnson. What was he like as a person, and just to cover for his unfortunately brief stint as a Penguins head coach?
Well, it took about 3 months for me to believe that the guy wasn't a total phony, because I didn't think anybody could be that unfailingly positive.
Just like you.
That's maybe it was a case of opposites attract. But no, I mean, it took a while, but I finally came around to believing that that really was his makeup, that he just did not see the downside in anything. And probably the best story to illustrate that was not when he was in Pittsburgh, but when he had been coaching in Calgary about 5 years before. And the Flames had just lost, as I recall, their 11th game in a row in Hartford. And a reporter asked Badger about it. And he started by making some reference to why the reporter was asking about our so-called slump.
It's just an 11-game losing streak.
And but I'm sure he genuinely felt that way. The man was as unfailingly positive and upbeat as anyone I've been around, and the silver medalist isn't even close.
Yeah, I am reminded of a story that the old 2-Niner Phil Bourque told me. The Penguins had lost, I think it may have been New Year's Day in Washington, when they always got destroyed because they were always hungover. And they had lost a game 8-1. And he said Bob Johnson walked into the locker room and said, "We scored the prettiest goal." And then he left the locker room. That's all he said. That's all he said. They just kind of looked at each other like, "Oh, guess he's not mad."
Yeah, that's him, and I'm sure he meant it. That's a shame. You really have to wonder what that team in the early 90s could have done if Bob Johnson had lived. Because, I mean, he changed the entire culture of the organization in a matter of months. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't expect to ever see anything like it again.
Is there a player out there, Dave, that you maybe underrated, just didn't get his due as just a great Penguin?
Who? That's tough.
You stumped the Hall of Famer. Look at this.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't Rico Fata. Uh, well, yeah, that's, maybe Larry Murphy. I mean, it's tough to say that about a guy who's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's like you, Dave, just underrated. People, his greatness is underlined. You have to read Dave to know the greatness.
Well, I mean, Murphy didn't do anything spectacularly. He didn't have Paul Coffey's speed. Um, he didn't have a shot that was usually overpowering, but he was incredibly smart. He was better at holding the puck in at the point than anybody I've ever seen.
Maybe.
I was going to just say that, Dave. I'm going to say he was the best at keeping the puck in the offensive zone than maybe anybody ever.
Yeah. And, that was a particularly good asset to have when you look at the teammates he had in the early 90s. When he kept the puck in, there were guys who could do something with it in the seconds that followed. So I guess I'd say him, but I'm also sure I'm overlooking somebody. I've always thought that Robbie Brown never got credit that he deserved. I mean, he scored 49 goals one year. People attributed that to, him playing on a line with Lemieux, but Brown set scoring records in the Western Hockey League that I believe still stand. And I'm still convinced that he thought the game more like Lemieux than any other line mate Lemieux ever had. I mean, unfortunately for Brown, he skated like he was wearing work boots on a beach. If he could have skated, he would have been a real terror. But as it was, he had great hands and an even better hockey mind.
Dave, this is so great. I love talking to you. I'm going to ask maybe a personal question. Are you a hockey guy or are you a Pittsburgh guy? Like, would you be covering the Penguins in Kansas City or would you be covering the minor league baseball team known as the Pirates? If the Penguins moved, what would you be doing right now?
I doubt that I would have moved with them. And I mean, there's no guarantee that the Kansas City Star or whatever paper out there would have been interested in hiring me. Honestly, if the Penguins had left, I would have probably just gone back to being a copy editor, which I did for my first 3.5 years at the Pittsburgh Press. And I enjoyed that work.
Really? You're already in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I don't know if there's a copy editor's Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure that I should be in the one I am. So,
is there any in the book? Again, everybody should pick up a copy of the book. It's the illustrated. I love the fact that it's illustrated because I like to read, but also, I love pictures, so I appreciate that.
And let me interject. I thought that the publisher did an outstanding job with the photo selection. Especially, it turned out that what they had to choose from wasn't as extensive as I thought it would be. But I thought they did a really nice job. There were maybe 6 to 10 photos, subjects that either they could not come up with a photo to illustrate, or that I thought really didn't capture what we were looking for, and the Penguins came in really handy with providing photos that served those purposes, including the one I mentioned earlier with Battleship and Durbano with their arms raised.
Oh, that's great.
To me, that might be the most iconic photo in franchise history, although it's probably not for you guys since you're a bit too young to remember that. But no, I thought they did a really nice job, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but the publisher really does deserve credit for that.
No, absolutely. Dave, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. You're the greatest writer in Penguins history, and we always talk about you on this podcast anyway because, well, you're funny. We didn't even have time to get into your former modeling career, which maybe in your next appearance you could, would be willing. I don't know.
Well, that might be the next coffee table book.
Well, see, there it is. Before we let you go, though, can you tell everyone where they can find the book, Dave?
Well, it is to my knowledge at bookstores around Western Pennsylvania. I know that all Barnes and Noble's stores are carrying it, and the day after Black Friday this week. In fact, I'll be doing a signing at the Barnes & Noble in Cranberry from noon until 2.
Oh,
For people outside the area who are watching the podcast, it can be obtained from reedypress.com. That's REEDY press.com, or Amazon. I know Amazon actually makes it available outside of the U.S. as well. So.
Dave, thank you again for coming on. This is an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk to you. I just have I have one question. How do we get what you're writing now?
yeah. Yes, we should mention that.
Yes, that seems to be a well-kept secret.
I see it on social media, and I'm like, how do I get? I don't Substack. I don't understand. I'm an older man than these kids.
Joe, I have socks older than you. Substack is a writing platform. My particular account is, and I think you could find it by searching for substack.com. My particular account is called Of Pucks and Penguins. I wish I could give you the address for that, but
there's a Dave Molinari. Yeah, davemolinari.substack.com if you want to check
it's easier than I thought.
And it's fantastic. It's
look at.
Gotta read it.
Yeah. Dave, well, thank you so much. Like Joe and Josh said, I mean, this is a true honor to have you on. I mean, we have to have you on again because honestly, if we weren't like tight on time, I could go for another hour asking you questions. So I know Joe could too. So we appreciate it. And everybody check out the book. It is The Pittsburgh Penguins, an illustrated timeline. And again, you can find him on Substack, davemolinari.substack.com. Thank you very much, Dave.
The Hall of Famer.
My pleasure, guys. And more than happy anytime you want me back.
Welcome back to the third segment of Two for Talking. We just had the great Dave Molinari on. That was fantastic conversation.
That was.
We'll definitely have to have him on again because, like Joe and I were just saying before you got back in here, Josh, we could have talked to him for an hour and a half with more questions to ask.
Dave just texted me to say how much he enjoyed it, and Dave doesn't enjoy anything in life. So the fact that he enjoyed speaking with the three of us, clearly we will have him on again. He's the greatest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what was not the greatest was the Steelers' performance this weekend. You know, I thought Mason Rudolph was better than what he showed on Sunday, but good Lord, he wasn't good. The defense, even though they created a touchdown, was brutal and giving up, chunks of yardage and wide receivers wide open in the middle of the field. I don't know if you guys saw on the one play where it's 3rd and 5 and they were like 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. Mike Tomlin, like I've said this before, he's lived in his fear so long, he's paid off the mortgage. Like he can't, I don't think he coaches. He's a good coach for a sport that doesn't exist anymore. And that's the NFL of the mid 2000s, mid early 2000s. I mean, it's a mess. I think they're cooked. I like not to be super pessimistic, but I could see this being the actual season that we don't have a winning record. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's obvious we're not going to have a winning record. We didn't beat Chicago. Everybody else is tougher. I don't think Mason was Joe Montana. I thought he played okay. I thought the defense as a whole played pretty good. And I really thought the special teams played. Thank God CBS turned the camera on in time for us to see half of it. I thought the fake was great. But why we did not use Mount Washington and Muth more in that game, and basically more all the time, I don't know. And the running game was great. Why we took away from that, I don't understand. And Josh, here's a bigger question. I think a couple times, I will blame Rudolph for, it was like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. Get the first down. We could have moved the chains. I thought that was maybe the biggest problem, was just kind of the playmaking or decision-making when it seemed like we had things going our way.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's just not a well-coached team. Well, when it's week after week and you see other teams designing plays to get people wide open all the time, the Bears, I don't even think Caleb Williams played that great. He missed a bunch of throws. He played okay. He's pretty good. But, I mean, he could have thrown for 400 yards. There were people wide open. And even out, I saw James Harrison went on social media and say, God, we're getting out schemed like crazy. Like, that's a guy who won a Super Bowl with Tomlin. Even as a couple of the players after the game mentioned, I think it was Patrick Queen said something about that. There were some schematic issues. It's like, well, not that the players don't deserve some of the blame, they do. But you can't look at the Steelers coaching staff and even take it seriously at this point. It's the same thing every season, guys. And you're right. What are they, 6-5 now? You got 2 games with Baltimore, at Detroit. You got Buffalo still. This might well be the season when the 500 thing comes to an end. I suspect that it might be. This isn't a playoff team. I'm just not buying it at all.
No, it looks so like I feel like Tomlin's getting exposed as the fraud that we've all kind of come to know him to be. And I wonder if, like, how Aaron Rodgers had that nice, little relationship with Mike Tomlin. They're winking at each other when he played for the Packers, like, oh, I want to go play for Mike Tomlin. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is having the same waking up, to this fraud as the national media, because even the national media is like, yeah, you know what? I don't think he's all he's cracked up to be. And like the coaching, like, the Mason Rudolph scramble that came back because of a illegal formation.
And did you see the clip on? I noticed it during the game. They showed Rodgers on the sideline. You could read his lips. He goes like this. He goes, "Oh my God, wrong formation."
Yep. Oh yeah.
Nobody on the field. Apparently, nobody on the field realized it. Nobody in the coaching staff. Rodgers standing on the sideline was so in tune with the game, he noticed it. Yeah, and Mason didn't play well. I mean, Mason's a good backup. That's what he is. Even though Rodgers wasn't great his last couple of games, I still think he's been pretty good on the whole. And he may have found a way to have won that game on Sunday, but Mason was not good enough. And this is just a flawed football team. There's just too many problems with this team, Joe.
Yeah, there is. And I'm going to make 2 statements here. One is, I really, really, really hate when it's an offensive penalty for the Steelers or even every team. I don't care unless it's Ohio State. I hate that call if someone's lined up wrong or 2 men were moving together. Just let them play football. Jesus Christ. I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean like you have to stop a game. Oh, this guy's foot was, come on. Really, to me, that's garbage. And to get to Corey's point about the fraud aspect, and it's nowhere near like Joe Paterno. I'm not trying to make it like this, but it's kind of like if Tomlin would have, like 3 years ago, just went on to ESPN and talked and just, splattered his BS on the morning shows.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
It would have been a lot better for his career.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like if he just went left a couple of years ago, like, hey, did the cow? I mean, I know Cowher, did the Cowher?
I know he's making a lot of money, but he's not doing any favors for his legacy the last 2 or 3 years. He's really not. They're not a well-coached team. And speaking of stoppages and things that drive me nuts, we're going to have to up my blood pressure medicine because of replay assist. I would like to know, like, when they decide to bring it up, because there were 2 plays in that game when the spot was clearly wrong, not even close, no replay assist. But then when there's a play like the Steelers may have been short of a first down, it may have been by that much, and I'm not even sure that it was. I think it was a Gainwell play. Replay assist had to step in. Like, what's going on? What's the protocol for this? Like, why do they get the power to decide when to stop it and when to not? I don't understand it.
Yeah, and Josh, what was Hayward's brother? He didn't feel like getting the first down?
I don't know what that was.
Like, how do you not? He didn't move.
Yeah. You know what that looked like to me? It looked like they were supposed to run. I mean, at the beginning, it was like, what the hell are you doing? But then after they ran the trick play,
maybe that was supposed to.
I thought maybe that was supposed to be the trick play.
Maybe.
Because he kind of like, I mean, why else would he get the ball and just hesitate? Like, he was just like, okay, I guess I'll go for it. And he also got it. That's the other thing that pissed me off. He got it.
Right.
Like, that was a first down.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's been a frustrating season for Steelers fans. That game may have been the most frustrating of all. It was actually a very winnable game. The Bears had their JV defense in that game. And the Steelers just aren't very good. Like, they're just not.
My mother said, we need a safety. We had a touchdown. And I was on a text thread with former guest of this podcast, the great Mike Minda, telling him how great he did at the Ramble. And I was with Randy. And he's like, oh, you should have tell him to call me next time. I'll bet it. I mean, Minda's like, I'm so fired up. We actually were at a high emotion of this is going great for about the first 20 minutes of that game.
I thought the Steelers were going to win that game in the second quarter. I did.
Me too. I mean, they really blew it. And I think they blew it on offensive play calling.
Yeah.
In the second half, for sure. I mean, there were some very curious, just everything. You can go through the coaching staff. I don't know what Terrell Austin does. I don't think it's very good. He's never been successful anywhere he's been. Arthur Smith throwing his 3 tight end offense in the Stone Ages. Like, I know they only have 1 receiver really, but it's just discouraging. I don't remember Pittsburgh. I don't know if the city's angry with the Steelers, but there's kind of an apathy taking place now, isn't there? Like, nobody cares that much. They're not going to be a contender. That's not good.
Well, here's what I have to say, fellas. We have a 3 tight end offense, and they don't even get the ball. So we're literally, what the F are we doing?
I don't know. You have all these tight ends, and John O. Smith gets like 2 catches for 6 yards a game. Like, paying the guy $10 million a year. Like, what's going on here?
But of the 3, either throw it to Freiermuth, who's been here, makes a lot of money, and usually makes big catches, or throw it to to Andre the Giant.
Right.
Johnny Smith has not impressed me at all. I thought we're getting junior varsity Kellen Winslow, and
not impressed.
No. Not impressed at all.
I'm starting to think that, like, you look at how Mike Tomlin runs the team, and I think his motto gets impressed down onto the offense. And because all these guys come here and suck when they come here, like DK Metcalf can't get anything going. And it's like, who did he have throwing to him? He had Geno Smith throwing to him last year.
Put up 1,000 yards already. Yeah. I mean,
and it's like, and he comes here and like, we can't do, and Trey Essex, I'm not just sticking up for Roman Wilson because he's a Michigan guy, but Trey Essex actually shared, and he goes, he watches the tape, and he played in the NFL. He goes, he's wide open. We have our wide receiver number 2. I don't know why we're not throwing to him.
So bizarre. I know.
It's just.
I have 2 more points to make in this show. One is, if your name is Harrison, just change your last name, please. Because I can't have you looking like that with Harrison on the back of your name in a Steeler uniform. Running around not hitting anybody. Like, you get thrown out of the game. Whatever. I can't see you. I said, Harrison. It was like all of a sudden, I was like, did I die and go to heaven? Harrison's playing for this. And the other thing I would say, because I know we're running out of time, I want to say congratulations to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Yeah.
I'm not super genius, but I do enjoy soccer. And what an absolute performance, and Big D energy and net for us. And what I loved about him is he looked like he worked at Blahnox. No one looked more Pittsburgh than that guy.
I agree. Good for the Riverhounds. Good for Tuffy, who's been running that team for a really long time. They get great crowds at that place. And when I really knew the Riverhounds were becoming a big deal in Pittsburgh? After they won the championship at the Penguin game Saturday night, during a TV timeout, they announced, congratulations to the Riverhounds, and they actually showed the video of the game-winning play. The crowd went nuts. I was like, oh, Pittsburgh's getting into this team. It's a good thing. It really is.
Yeah, and I forget who shared it. Somebody shared it online. I do this every week. I say, oh, somebody shared it, and I never remember. But it was a side-by-side of Fleury making the save and the Riverhounds making this. It was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I'm not much of a soccer guy, but I like with the Steelers, I just watch them instead. Because, not to give us credit, I'm pretty sure it was on this show that we kind of sifted through this, and it's hardly an original thought, but I went through and looked, and how much of the Steelers' success is Dan Rooney's success? We talked about that before, and I couldn't believe it, but since Dan Rooney died, and I know he stepped down earlier than 2017, but, he was still influencing the team. They haven't won a playoff game since then. No. Dan Rooney became the president in 1969. How many playoff games did they win before that? 0. It's like, is this just a Dan Rooney thing? And Art both suck at personnel and suck at hiring people and telling them who to draft? Because, Bill Nunn and Dan Rooney are the reason that 10 Hall of Famers were selected. Dan Rooney made Bill Cowher pick Ben Roethlisberger.
Corey, there is a minor, I don't know the word Josh would know, the journalistic word. Art Rooney Jr. should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was the head scout for the Steelers. Mr. Nunn, who is in the Hall of Fame, deserves that. It deserves all the recognition in the world for it. But Art Rooney Jr. also, he was in charge of the drafts. And him and Dan had a falling out later in his life. But Art Rooney Jr. drafted a lot of guys. It went on the line to pick a bunch of guys. And he was one of the main architects of the team, as well as Dan, obviously, and Mr. Nunn.
It would be nice to hear from the current owner of the Steelers on occasion, Art Rooney. I'm not saying he needs to be like Jerry Jones and doing a press conference after every game. It's easy to make fun of Jerry Jones. At least Jerry gives a shit. Like, at least Jerry makes changes all the time because he wants to win. Like, the stagnant feel of the Steelers right now, man, is it a problem. And I'm not saying there's just one person you can blame everything on, but this isn't going to be a contender for a while. And that's not going to go over big in Pittsburgh. They are stuck right in the middle. It's not a pretty picture.
Now we're in Mike Tomlin-induced purgatory. It's awful. I just want to get out of here as fast as I can. We're in the mushy middle to below middle. It's just awful. Anyways. All right. Well, that'll do it for us on the Two for Talking podcast. I appreciate all of you listeners. I appreciate Josh and Joe as well, and Dave Molinari for joining us. And
happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Check out Joe at the Broken Goblet Thanksgiving Eve.